streaming. A little bit about my streaming. If you go to my account, and I'll try to put this on yours. If you go to Profile, what I've been doing is we don't have fully integrated Big Blue Button into Canvas yet, which is supposed to be a really nice recording feature. So I'm just streaming it out to YouTube right now. And by the way, in case you're interested, I'm using a program called OBS. It's free. It's a really, really great piece of software that you can stream straight to your YouTube account. You can hook up multiple devices to it, so on and so forth, and I'm capturing the whole desktop. To get to that link, if you click on my YouTube channel, it's new, so I don't have a special thing, but in here, I have a couple of different playlists. I have the ITEC 315 playlist and the ITEC 355 playlist. So up here, you'll be able to start playing back these videos if you need them. All right. I place them there for your convenience, especially as we get into the coding. All right. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and pull up VMware. And where we left off the other day is we had, refresh my memory if I'm wrong, but we had XAMPP installed. Now XAMPP gives me, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Somebody keeps stealing all the markers. All right, so I got to get a marker. Tell me how many collective minutes I'm wasting. Oh, is there one there? Awesome. Thank you. So XAMPP, as we noticed the other day, it installs some of the things we need. We have a web server, and that's called Apache. In addition to that, we have an FTP server. Bless you. And that's, bless you. Might need off tomorrow, right? FTP server, it's called FileZilla is what we're using. All of these products are free. We also are going to use MySQL database. And then there's some other things that it installs, but we're not going to worry about it too much. For example, there's an email server. And there's also a JavaScript server. All right. Now again, I know that I told you the other day, these are configured to easily get up and running. So please, if you go into a production environment, do not use XAMPP. Do not use XAMPP. XAMPP, right? In a production environment. Now, somebody legitimately asked me when we left the other day, there are no such thing as stupid questions, all right? They said, what's a production environment? I'm like, good question, right? A production environment is where our users are actively using the software, all right? It's out there, it's real, it's recording data, whatever. A development environment is where we do all of our testing. And I'll give you an example. Our website, frostburg.edu, when you go to it, you are going to the production environment. However, there's the development environment as well. If they implement a new tool, for example, if you go to frostburg.edu/findit, there's a new directory tool there. I don't particularly care for it, but it's there nonetheless. Before they rolled it out for us to use, they tested it in their development environment for days or weeks or maybe even months. They got people to test it out and make sure that the tool worked as intended. Once it was established that it works as intended, we roll it out. These computers are production. for all the computers on campus, we have one at least that's like it, where we test out new software, new operating systems. That's the development side. And then we roll it out. That would be the production side. That make sense? All right. So these are the different things that we have installed, and they're going to be on our server. And if we wanted to connect to any of these, we would use a client. So on the client side of things, we're going to need a browser to connect. And if we're going to develop, we need a browser so we can see what's going on with our PHP. We're going to need an FTP client. We're going to need something to manage MySQL database. MySQL is a specific database. How many people have heard of Access before? Heard of Access, right? MySQL is a specific database, much like Access. Access is a personal database. MySQL is originally intended for like a medium-sized company. However, Facebook actually has MySQL being used. And then Oracle, that's the granddaddy. That's the big one. Right? That's an enterprise. Oracle and MS SQL, Microsoft SQL Server. All right? So all of these, and then some type of like Notepad, plus or other syntax highlighter, enables us to be able to upload things to XAMPP, our XAMPP development environment up there, our server. All right? So the other day, just kind of walking through this just a little bit. Everybody can see my screen, right? Feel free to play with it on your own if you want to start your stuff up again. We got to a point where we should have been able to figure out what our IP address is. And we should be able to, everybody in here should be able to go to this address in a browser, 10.20.103.191, and see my server. All right, there it is. Hi, my name is Mike Flynn, and I believe that's just about where we left off the other day. Am I correct? Okay. So we're up to speed. A couple of different things here. These are the only three we're really going to use. We're not going to worry about Mercury Mail or Tomcat. All right? Do you have questions about any of these servers and what their responsibilities and roles are?
Can you explain FileZilla?
I absolutely can. FileZilla is a file transfer protocol tool for us. All right? So when we want to get things from our client, think your computer in front of you, to my server, which is going to be up in the cloud, all right, I have to have a tool to enable me to do that. What you're seeing on my machine is the server end up here, right? So it's listening. It's saying, hey, do you have anything to put up here? And eventually you say, well, as a matter of fact, I do. And you use your client, your FTP client, which will be FileZilla as well. Just remember, server, client. We'll use this to say, all right, transfer this from my computer to my website. And that's what it does. Okay? My web server, that's what serves up my pages, just like you see on CNN or ESPN or wherever your favorite website is. They're usually probably either Apache, about 50% uses Apache, but another 50% uses Microsoft SQL Server. Those are the two big servers out there. Now, in this, we also have built in PHP as my language. All right? And we'll get to the database aspect of it later. Now, if I want to configure some of this, I want to show you some important things. You don't have to tweak this, but I want you to begin to wrap your head around what's going on. If I pull up a Windows Explorer and I go to the C drive, I should see that XAMPP, And inside XAMPP, there's going to be a folder called HT Docs. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here. But HT Docs, that is, right now, my root folder, HT Docs. By default, that's where it's at. That's how XAMPP sets it up. All right? That means anything that I put inside of here will render for me. It just knows that. So if I come in here and have a look at this, that's that document that I created the other day, and there it shows up. All right? Now, all of our servers, actually every single program you use can be configured. It always has extra power user features. But when we are the administrator, which is what we are, we can control everything about our environment. All right? So right now, you're used to being given a sliver of extra power. But when you go out and you're working on your own, you get it all. And I'm going to show you just a little bit of it in hopes that you'll play around with it on your own and get familiar with this stuff. These are the things we do at home that we can talk about during a job interview, right? You can say, I set up and manage my own website. It has Apache with MySQL and PHP and FileZilla. All right, so on Apache, we come over to the right. You can keep it running, but there's admin and config. And there's logs. By the way, everything is tracked. You know that by now. If you've had me in class before, I freaked you out with that stuff, right? If we click on config, these are the configuration files. And we have a whole bunch of them. Apache itself is just the web server. If we want a specific language on our web server, we have to include it in. So there you see that PHP INI, right? Well, if I wanted an ASP, I would have to put that in. If I wanted some JavaScript, I'd have to put that in. All right? This is all built for us. I want to have a look at the Apache HTTPD. The D stands for daemon config file. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here, real quick, I want to show you a couple neat things. I want to try to right-click on that. No. Let's do this. I want to click on Config up here. This is for the overall XAMPP panel. I want to show you numbers is what I want to do. We downloaded and installed Notepad++. Where it says editor, I'm going to change it from Notepad to Notepad++. So you might want to take notes on where this is located. It's going to be under the C drive, Program Files, Notepad++. Neighbors to help neighbors. If you don't get all of it, it's okay. You're going to see it enough that you'll be able to handle this. So now if I click on Config and go to HTTPD, the D stands for daemon. All right? It's just a server. It's a fancy word for a server. The config, now I get it open up in Notepad++, and the whole reason I wanted to do this was the numbers. All right? Because I have some specific numbers I want to show you. All right? First off, hashtag. What's hashtag mean? Look at that. We changed society. Think about that. Think how impactful we are. Hashtag I'm too cool. Right? Right? Ain't that cool? That's exactly what it means. It is a comment. All right? Now, right here on 37, that's my server root. Notice how detailed this configuration file is. It tells you what everything is. This is my server root. This is where my server is located. I'll pause so everybody can get caught up. It's okay. You don't have to get it all. Remember, this class, while I'm teaching this, and I want you to know this, it's ultimately about programming. I want you to play with it. I want you to begin to experiment with it. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit, okay? So here on my server root, that literally shows where the module for Apache is located. So if I wanted to locate it somewhere else, I could, but I have to come into the configuration file and tell it where I've moved it. Right now, it's located in XAMPP Apache, and if you went there on your computer, you would find it there. The next thing that I want to talk about is the listening port. All right? This enables you to, as it says, bind an IP address to a specific port. I'm not going to go into as much detail as I did in my other class about this. IP addresses are 32 bits. They're represented with 32 bits. That means there's 2 to the 32nd IP addresses, meaning there's only about 4 billion IP addresses available to us on the planet. Given that there's about 7 billion devices attached, that raises an issue, which is why we moved to IPv6. Ports are 16 bits that are specifically for each IP address. All right? 16 bits means that 2 to the 16th is 65,536 different ports, ranging from 0 to 65,500. 65,535. All right? The most common ports are found in the first 1,000 numbers. Port 80, port 443, port 21, port 22, port 110, so on and so forth. Not expecting you to memorize all that right now. A listening port, they had that first 1,000, there's a default listening port. For HTTP, a web server, the listening port is 80. That's for regular HTTP. This is important. Default listening port for HTTPS is 443. We need to know what those listening ports are so that we can have communications with our server. That's why we need to know these things. If you always use the default listening ports, you never have to adjust anything, right? You don't have to tell the users anything special, but if you do adjust those default listening ports, you're going to have to change something. So that's what the listening port is right here. It's port 80. So what that would mean is at home, if you want to do this at home, and you have access to your router, and you have access to your computer, you poke a hole in port 80 on your router, pointing towards your computer, poke a hole in port 80 on your computer, and the next thing you know, mom and dad are checking out the cool website that you made from wherever they're located on your machine at home. All right? Trying to give you a big picture. In the enterprise, we have fixed IP addresses. Yours at home is a dynamic. That means one day it might be 192.168.54.2, and the next day it might be 172.16.10.30, right? So they're dynamic. They change. They rotate. So that's kind of important there, that listening port. Every single server has a listening port. It's listening for communications. FTP listens on port 21. SFTP listens on port 22. It listens to see if my client wants to do anything on my server. Do I want to upload a file? Do I want to give them access to a web page? It's listening for a request to do that. All right. I don't have a lot more. I only have one other place that I want you to look at, and it's on line 243. Line 243. I had another one too. Where'd it go? think I overwrote it. I'll have to find the other one. All right. On 243, it starts talking about the root document. The root document. That is the starting point of any website. It's known as the root. It makes sense, right? Where does your tree start? At the roots, right? So it's the root document. Our document root is C:\XAMPP docs. Now, if you remember, I showed you that, remember? Now we're coming full circle, and you should see how they're connecting together. That's where I store my files, and this points to it and says that's where the root document should be located. Give me 1 second. I want to find something else here. All right. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is right here on line 281. These are the root document names in order of precedence that the server will automatically serve up if they exist. Does that make sense? If you go to www.cn.n.com, do you get a directory listing? No. You get the front page. Go to ESPN, you don't get a directory listing that's in there. You get the front page of ESPN, right? If you go to Amazon.com, the same thing. That means that inside of their root directory, which ties up above, is a file, one of these, or it could be a specified. You could put your own in here if you wanted. Let me show you what happens here. I'm going to come in, and I want to change this from index to index 1, and I want to go 127.0.0.1, and look what happens now. So what happens now is because one of the files, one of the specified root files doesn't exist, it gives me that directory listing. So if a root directory, in the root directory, a root file exists of one of those names, it'll automatically render it. Otherwise, the way I have my server set up, it's going to give you a directory listing. We can block that in Apache. We can tell it, if it doesn't exist, throw an error. I'm going to let that up to you. Anybody ever seen those error 403 forbidden, error 404 not found? That's all in here. You can specify what you want to be thrown up if there's nothing in a directory that what it's looking for. All right? You are in complete control. Kind of cool? All right. I want to pause and ask, do you have any questions? Everybody's good? We sure? There are no such things as stupid questions. If you're confused on anything, let me know. Yep. Yep. So up here on line 58 is the listening port, for our web server, our Apache web server. By the way, it's the same for IIS right? That's Microsoft's web server. It's always port 80 because that's a predefined port that our websites run on, port 80. Some of the other more important ports that are out there, 443 is HTTPS. 90% of the web pages, mainstream web pages, are now HTTPS. So that means the server has to be configured for certifications and everything else, but it's got to be configured to listen on port 443. By the way, ours right now, the way we have it, does not. Doesn't listen on that port because we haven't turned any of that on. FTP is port 21. That's its default listening port. Anybody ever played the game Doom or heard of the game Doom? The original Doom listening port was 666. Whoa! It's a game about demons. What'd you expect? However, since then, a lot has changed in 25 years since that game first came out. Those first 1,000 are locked in. You're not supposed to put a port below 1024, right? 1024. You're not supposed to put it in. FTPS or SFTP is port 22. So that brings me into, let me have you do this. You go into the admin for FileZilla and see if you can find where to change the default listening port. And it tells you what port it's listening on right here, 21. But see if you can figure out, I'll give you a hint, you click on admin and see if you can figure out where you might change that listening port. Go ahead. You're not going to hurt anything. Oh, did you already find it? Aren't you good? Oh, that's not the listening port, though. I'll be honest, I don't know where it's at. I set this stuff up and I forget. Did you find it? Well, the first things we need to do is we need to figure out what the password is. Hey, remember I told you never use this in a production environment. You know what the password is for the administrator? Admin. Yep, I typed in admin and it let me in. And once I was in there, now look at this. I can click on all these other things that are in here. Whoop. It's really that easy. Once you begin to understand conceptually that a server is something that enables us to interact in some way, we're good to go. Just need to know what the listening ports are. By the way, if you like to run your own Minecraft server or you're a PC gamer and like to run your own games, ports are the same thing. I set up a game server. I poke a hole in the external firewall port, the router firewall, and then the internal firewall on my computer, and I'm good to go. Right? The whole world can come in. All right. So I'm not going to go into configuring all this other stuff. I've given you enough of a crash course that you can get yourself in trouble. All right? But if you're in a virtual machine, you can't really get yourself in trouble. Right? I want you to play with this stuff. I want you to experiment and continue to experiment with it. But now I'm going to move you off of your environment into my environment. Everybody cool? All right. So we are ultimately going to be on ITEC 315.frostburg.edu. For FTP, I rotate the port. All right, I've changed it. It's not 21, I put a 7 in front of it. So it's 721. For HTTP, it's the same, it's port 80. And for MySQL, it's going to be the default port of 3306. All right? So the FTP I changed, and I'll tell you why I changed it. Anybody ever pinged something else? Ever pinged something? Let's ping something. Let's ask if something if it's there. Bring up a console and type in ping www.google.com. Don't ping frostburg.edu because it won't reply. But google.com will reply. We are pinging, we're sending a request for acknowledgement over ICMP. That's a very specific protocol. They have port scanners that you can freely download, doesn't cost a penny, that will scan IP addresses looking for servers to be running. There's only 4 billion addresses to scan. If I use regular old port 21, they find it in no time, and the next thing you know, they're trying to hack it. They're trying to use random usernames and passwords to get in. And of course, the basics, admin password, those types of things. I'll build a log file of 4 or 5 megs in 24 hours. So instead of them trying to hack my server, I just changed the port, and that's why I do it. What we're doing on the web server, they're not really going to be able to hack your stuff. We're not doing anything that important, all right? So the next thing that I want to do is I want to come in to a remote, whoops. Oh, no. Oh, there it was. There we go, type VNC. So this is going to be my server. The server, maybe I'll take you back one day and show it to you. It's in the back across from my office in our server room. It sets in a rack. It has 8 processors in it. It's only got like 32 gigs of RAM in it. But this is a virtualized instance on that particular server. All right, so it's not a real big server. We don't need a real big server. I've kind of foolproofed it. It's tough for you guys to crash my server anymore. I'm not saying you can't, but it's tough. And it took me a long time to get it so you guys didn't crash it. And it was always on accident. If all of you send a program into an infinite loop, the whole server comes crashing down. So I've fixed a lot of different things. When I create an account for each of you, this is a demonstration of the power of programming. I got 20 students in here. To create your account on these machines, all right, I have to go into FileZilla, put in your name, put in your password, create your folder within that HT docs, and point your FileZilla account to that folder. I have to give you permission for a secure shell setting. I have to give you permission on the database, and I have to grant you privileges to be able to do things in the database. When I do that manually, and I get good at it, which is usually about the last 2 or 3 people, I can do one person in about 5 minutes. Now think about that. That's a lot of time. Or it's a very monotonous process. I could write a script that I suck in a CSV file filled with your username and your student ID number. And my script generates 5 other scripts that enable me to add those directories and those permissions, and generates a nice big XML document for me. And in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can have everybody's account set up. All right? So I've done a little bit of preliminary work. I've already gone out to Canvas. I brought your names in. I formatted the file that I need. It's a CSV file. I'll show it to you real quick here. Give me just a second. If you have any questions, again, just ask me. So here's the Spring 18. Like I said, I've already formatted this. It only took me about 5 minutes to do it. There's all of my account information. Your usernames and passwords on this system will be your username and your student ID number. Everybody got that? Your username and your student ID number. Now remember, I got to create all those directories. Watch this over here, right? I got to create all those directories. I have a little script here that says create users. Are you watching this directory? How long would it take you to create all those directories with your usernames? Is that cool? Now think about it. When you create a directory otherwise, you have to right-click, new, folder, hope you don't misclick, put the username in. Think of how that opens up error when you do that. All that manual stuff, it opens up error. It invites it. We're human beings. We make mistakes all the time. How many people ran into a wall today? Nobody wants to fess up, do you? Somebody did. I feel it. So boom, that's all created. The other thing that my script did is it made this. Now, how did it do this? Well, I needed to know the structure of the configuration file for FileZilla. And that's easily accessible. And then all I had to do is fill in the information that I needed my users to have. You have read-write permissions, this is your home folder, so on and so forth. Now this, a little bit of manual work is involved here. I had to take this document, copy the whole thing, and paste it into my FileZilla configuration document. But still, if I didn't do that, I would have to go through. Let me pull that up here. I would have to pull up this, and then I would have to go through, and I would have to add each of you in. Enable account, password, group membership, where your home directory was, the whole 9 yards. But I just copied and pasted that over, and boom, you're done. And then the last piece is the insert database users, this little script. And I'll show it to you. I'm not going to run it right now. But all of this, where I do all of these grants and all of this, if I have to do that manually, it's a whole bunch of little check boxes. Imagine how, and there's no select all because they don't want you to do select all because it's administration privileges. Well, I want to give you all the administrative privileges because I want you to do what you need to do when we get to that point in the semester. But they don't put a select all because they don't want people just going in and randomly giving administrative privileges to everybody. Unless you're me, I want to give it all to you, right? So this particular script I run on MySQL Workbench, and poof, all your accounts are created, and it grants you privileges to be able to create new tables, delete tables, add things into the tables, so on and so forth. So what would have ultimately taken me about an hour and a half, if I was lucky, I demonstrated to you in about 5, 6, 7 minutes. All of it. So let's try it out. You ready? Go ahead, so we don't get confused, and close off your virtualized environment while I try to figure out how to get out of here. Anybody paying attention for me? Let's see. Can't remember how to get out of there. There we go. End task, that'll do it. All right. So I am, at this point, I'm going to close, so I don't get confused, I'm going to close this guest. So all the work we've done up to this point in time, I want you to conceptualize what's going on. Everybody's pretty good, right? All right. Open up FileZilla on your host machine. Should be right there on the desktop. Now, this is FileZilla. Is this the client or the server? Is this the client or the server? It's a client, right? Because we want to take stuff and we want to upload it to our website. All right? So this is FileZilla. Let's connect to our server. Take a minute and look at each one of these, and then come back to this, which is the Site Manager. All right? And bring up this dialog. So take a look, get familiar with the piece of software, and then click on Site Manager. All right. Think you can do a new site? So you're going to say ITEC 315 is going to be the name of your site. I'm going to have to call mine like ITEC 315.2 or something like that. Question? It's not? It's not on that one either? All right, I'll get it on. Then for your host, what's your host? What's your host? Yep. And now what port number are we going to put in there? 721. And then you're going to change to, from anonymous, you're going to change to normal. And you're going to put your username and your password. What's your username and password? Your student ID name, and then scooch over a little bit. Let's see. Oh my goodness. There we go. Couldn't find your cursor. Oh no, it wasn't your fault. I literally couldn't find it. I'm like, where is it? All right, scooch back a little bit. Oh, come on. Oh, no. It's not going to let me do it that way. There you go. Scooch it a little bit bigger. I don't know why it's not installed on here. Did you delete it? No. Mm-hmm. There you go. Mm-hmm. Everybody good? Okay. What's up? What's that? What's wrong? Well, give me just a minute. Then let me let me do the rest of this. Okay, so when you have hostname itech315.frostproof.edu, port 721, username your username, and password in there, you should be able to click connect. And on the left-hand side, see how it says local site. And on the right-hand side, That's the remote site. Now yours doesn't have all this up here. All right? Because you are one level below me. I want to be able to see all your stuff in case you have a problem. And if I'm where you're at, I can't see everybody's stuff. So what I want you to do is create a new document called index.php. Don't worry, Marquise, I'll help you 1 second. But I want to show you something here real quick. I want to show you how to see file extensions, maybe, on your computer. So bring up a File Explorer View Options, and then change Folder and Search Options, View, and you want to say, I already have it unchecked. Uncheck Hide Extension for Known File Types. You want to uncheck that. By the way, you might want to say Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. All right, what's up, Marquise? Were you connected? What's wrong?
Okay.
Directory listing successful. I was trying to get over to help Marquise real quick. All right. So I brought up a Windows Explorer. They've changed it to File Explorer. You're going to click on View. Come over to Options. See where it says Change Folder and Search Options. Then click on View. And in here, there's two settings that, as a developer, I like to make sure I have. One, show hidden files, folders, and drives. And the other one is uncheck hide extensions for known file types. The reason they do that is the normal user, which you no longer are, doesn't always need to know about those file extensions. But we, as a developer, need to know what kind of a file we're putting up on our server. Because if we don't put a PHP file up there, or an HTML file, or whatever kind of file we're wanting to put up there, it ain't going to run. All right? Everybody good? Okay, so let's build a template. So you're going to right-click. Actually, how do I want to do this? You can right-click and say New Text Document, and you could change all that. Take it all out. You can say template.php and hit enter. And that's going to say, are you sure you want to change the file name extension? Yes. And as a matter of fact, if you didn't have that show hidden file, that one thing unchecked, it would let you do it and it wouldn't change the file extension. Now once you've done that, you're going to right click and you're going to say edit with Notepad++. Type this in. Just like this. This is an HTML5 document template with some PHP in it. You good, Marquise? What's wrong? Got it? Amen. You good? Coming along? What's up?
Every time I try to turn, every time
What's
I
up?
connect, it just takes me back to
Yeah, no, you're right. Directory successful. That's right. You don't have anything up here yet. Right? You know, some of y'all are a little confused because there's nothing showing. We don't have any documents up there. Of course nothing's showing yet. That's what we're going to do. Did you type it in all the way yet? Getting there? So you have that .txt on there. when you're done this, save it, close it, go out, rename it, and delete that .txt. Yeah, hit apply now. Yep. Yep. Now you did the same thing. Notice the name of your file. It's actually .txt on the end. So close that off. Now right click on that. Now see how that's showing up now? And we don't want that .txt. This is the PHP file. A hint to know if it's .txt still or PHP is see how mine is all highlighted appropriately? My HTML stands out. My PHP stands out. If yours isn't standing out, you don't have a PHP document. You have a text document. Don't worry. I'll come around and try to recognize that. Good. What'd you do? Use this as an excuse to go buy a fancy new machine?
I've had this.
Mm-hmm. Good? Got it? Coming along? Yeah. Feeling comfortable? Okay. Very important that you all feel comfortable right now. Because when we really start to kind of take flight, you got to have this base stuff. That's why I'm going so slow right now. What's up? It's a H1. Oh. H1. Yep. It's H1, meaning header 1. And then there's an H2 and H3. Now remember, that's you got to save it as a text file. Just don't forget. That's all. It'll be good. You good? Well, here. Let's go in here. Let me see. Let me help you out. Come up here. Click on Windows Explorer. Click on View. Click on Options. Change folder and search options. View. Just double check in here. See where it says hide extensions for known file types? Uncheck that. Apply. Okay. Save and close this. I think it's already saved, so just close it all off. Now, click on that. Look at that. See that TXT shows up there? Chop that off and open it back up, and you'll be good to go. You good? You don't look very good. I don't look good at all. Most people are almost done. Clearly, whatever's on your phone is more important. Yes, I will call you out on it. If you think, I can't believe you called me out on my phone. Get used to it. I'm here to teach you how to be a professional. Yes. I'm sorry, what? No. PHP. Do not have TXT on the end. You don't want it, because we're going to develop in PHP or HTML or ASP or CSS. It's really important that we see those file extensions so we know what the heck we're doing, right? All right, I think most everybody's done. If you're not quite there, it'll be okay. So what are you going to do now? Well, you are going to let me create a new folder here for myself. New directory. I'll call this Spring 18. All right. So now my stuff looks like your stuff, right? All right. Who's my Apple users? All right. FileZilla doesn't work this way on Apples. I don't know why. It's painful. You can take that template that you just created, all right? You can take that guy. I want to, I'll rename mine template, So we're good to go. I want to take it and I want to drag it up to my server. Away it goes. Boom, it's up there. So all of us have taken our file, our template file.php, and now it's up on our server. Now we want to see it work. You want to go home and say, let me make a document that says, hi, Mom, right? I'll call you later tonight, Mom. When's the last time you called your mommy? Some of you are like, this morning. I can relate to that. All right, so let's see it. You ready? So I want to come up and I want to go to itec315.frostburg.edu. itec315.frostburg.edu /users/your username. I want to put some extra stuff on mine. And you should be able to click on that and you should be able to see that template. It should be there. Now the way that I set you up just now is it gave you a directory listing. How could, let's go ahead and click on it. How could I change it so that instead of giving me a directory listing, it just automatically rendered that page? I gotta get my glasses. I thought I could help, but no. Users. Yes. That should take care of you. There you go. What's up, Shay? Good. That's what I'm here for. Probably forgot an S on users. It's users with an S. Yep. So.
I was supposed to drag this over here.
You already did.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that's first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Then was I supposed to finish this because I never finished typing this?
No, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Eventually, you need it. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Oh well, you don't type that because that'll take you to mine. But yeah. Okay. So what can you do now? I want to show you something. You ready for this little trick? I can change the name of this to index.php. And what's that going to do now? What's it going to make it do? What's the server going to do now? It's going to automatically render that document for me. It's going to automatically render it. So now if I go to my website, you can just hit refresh, by the way, if you want. Boom, it's going to automatically render it. So anytime we have index.php, index.htm, index.html, whatever, it's going to automatically render and it's not going to give me the directory listing, right? I want to change it back. And what I would like for everybody to do is maybe take a minute with that template document, make a message, change it. So change this document. So title, up here at the top, title is, this is the name in a tab. This is what that is. So I could say something like Mike Flynn. H1, this is all HTML. And down here, this is where our text might go in an HTML document. In our PHP blocks of code, that's where we get to do the fun stuff, like calculations and retrieve stuff from databases and take over the world, all the fun stuff, tie into APIs. So here we could do something real simple like print Hello, Mom. This is my first PHP code block. Save that off. Today, I want you to just drag it back up there. Come back and refresh. Don't worry, I'll put that code back up there for those of you who are like, but Mike, where's the code? Don't worry, give me a second. I'll get it up there. There you go. So you can go home, you can start playing now. I mean, shoot, this is most of reinforcement exercise 1. No kidding. But I decided to take it a little bit slower in an effort to make sure we get a better footing to move forward. What's up, Shane? I haven't shown you that yet. I'll show you on Friday when we open it off of off of the server. We'll do it. If you're paying attention. Oh, you're okay. It's under C drive. Mm-hmm. C drive. Program files x86. Notepad++, and then Notepad++. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that'll do it. Yep, that'll do it. Oh, you click on always. Yeah, that'll always do it for you. Yeah. I wasn't going to show it. They're already overwhelmed, so I was going to wait until Thursday. What's up? Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Let me get my glasses again. That's easy. Parse error, unexpected error. It's going to be that right there. I know it looks like it, but it's that little dash right there. It's showing that this block goes together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't this comes down to there.
Yeah.
See? Get it? Yeah. Okay. In your most likely time off tomorrow or later tonight, you must, each and every one of you, 4 points, set up a development environment on your own computer and provide proof to me that you have done so. Just like this. So, and I'll put a little exercise with the links to where to get it from or even the software.
What if your
All right?
power goes out?
What's that?
What if your power goes out?
Oh, man. Maybe you should do it tonight before it starts snowing. You've had me before. Come on now. Really? Browser. You can come over here. You know what? We got a big-ass generator out back, man. Power still be going. You got a laptop, right? Built-in ups on it, man. You're good to go. All right. Browser. You got to have a browser installed. Not Internet Explorer or Edge. Get away from it. You're an IT professional. Do not use Edge or Internet Explorer. They suck. FTP client. FileZilla. All right? And then you need, don't worry about the MySQL Workbench. You can download it if you want, but you don't have to worry about that right now. We're not getting to that for about 8, 9 weeks. All right, so you don't have to worry about that right now. But you do need Notepad++ or Atom or another syntax highlighting text editor. You're going to get those downloaded, and then what I want you to do is you're going to take a picture of your environment set up, try to adjust that file extension on the end. Try to adjust that on your computer, all right? And then I want you to put some documents up there. Just play around. You can play around in Chapter 1. Most reinforcement exercise 1 is almost done at this point. That does not mean that you shouldn't read that chapter because there's good stuff in there. It talks about delimiters. It talks about code blocks. It talks about ASP. It talks about JavaScript. It talks about HTML. All right? You got to read through that chapter. You got to do that chapter. All right? On Thursday, yes, we'll have class on Thursday. The game plan will be to come in and start experimenting with just PHP a little bit more. Possibly expect a quiz. If you do what I'm asking you to do, you should be able to be pretty good on that quiz. All right? You have all the necessary information to be able to start developing your own website at this point. Okay? All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, see you Thursday.